Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today is Leadership Iron Man versus Ultron on Expert difficulty. Very difficult quest. Ultron on Expert for true solo. But Leadership seems to be the best way, to me, to get the job done. My initial attempt with Justice Iron Man seemed good, but then I hadn't realized that you can't play Great Responsibility while in alter ego form. So, new strategy was needed, and I think Leadership is the way to go. So we got a strong hand here with 3 upgrades. Not able to play Mark V armor until using Futurist to get energy. Then we can play all 3 of the upgrades. So it's pretty important to get off to a strong start in this one because you can't stay alter ego for too long, and really you don't want to stay alter ego at all if you can help it. But if you want to stay in hero form all the time, that necessitates controlling the boss using allies primarily. So not only is it important to get off to a strong start with upgrades, it's important to get off to a strong start with allies. So you can see Ultron hits like a tank. The attack on Iron Man took off 6 HP and then an additional 1 for the Ultron drone, so a total of 7. It's brutal. Clearly can't take more than one of those. So on the hero turn, getting out the second rocket boots. And we're going to have to flip over to alter ego form. Use Futurist. And luckily find Hawkeye and have Genius and First Aid available to pay for Hawkeye. So an exceptional start with the 2 resource generating cards, helping us to get out the Mark V armor and Hawkeye, the more expensive cards. And now Mockingbird in hand, so we're off to a very strong start in this one. I've forgotten at this point to add the extra HP to Tony Stark for the Mark V armor and the rocket boots, so the situation is not as dire as it appears, as I should have actually 8 more HP, so I should be at 10. Concussive Blast, a pretty mild encounter card, which is good. And on the hero turn, we've got the ability to get out Mockingbird and also keep Make the Call in hand so that I can get back Hawkeye or Mockingbird as needed. We're using Futurist to grab the Power of Leadership. We'll get out Mockingbird. I was thinking I would save the Power of Leadership for when I need to play Hawkeye again from the discard pile. This Leadership build really revolves around Make the Call, and our primary targets for Make the Call should be Hawkeye and or Mockingbird, as that's how we control the boss and stay in hero form most of the time. So, draw Arc Reactor, another important upgrade. And we're going to be using Hawkeye to prevent these drones from coming into play, the drones that result from assault on NORAD. That's why I put a card to discard and took a counter away from Hawkeye. That's a drone coming into play and then immediately dying to Hawkeye's response. And Ultron was stunned, so he doesn't get the attack, but I still dealt him a boost card. And then the Drone Factory was our encounter card, which brings another drone into play, which Hawkeye snipes, so another card from the top of the deck to the discard pile, and 1 more token off of Hawkeye, so he's down to just 1 token. And likely we'll want to use him to tank a boss attack next round after he's out of tokens, and so we can bring him back as quickly as possible with Make the Call and the Power of Leadership. So we got 5 upgrades out now, so a pretty good hand size, even while in hero form. And we're able to pretty soon start pinging Ultron a little bit. I thought about it there, but then I forgot that he's currently got Retaliate on him, so then I decided not to do that, as I want to make use of Hawkeye's final token. So there goes Hawkeye's final token, getting rid of the drone that comes off of Assault on NORAD. And nothing to stop the drone that's going to come when Ultron attacks here. And the attack will kill Hawkeye as expected. And now we'll have an encounter card. That's a brutal one, which upgrades the drones. Want to deal with that as soon as possible. Luckily, Hawkeye does deal 2 damage, so he's still able to deal with upgraded drones as they enter play. So we are discarding 2 lightning resources in order to deal with the Retaliate on Ultron. And then we're using Power of Leadership and Supersonic Punch to get Hawkeye back into the play with Make the Call. Now we'll need 2 damage to deal with the drone. So we're using Iron Man, then readying him with Arc Reactor, then attacking with Iron Man again. And we'll ping Ultron for a little bit, and then draw. Once again, staying in hero form as much as possible. And that's going to be a full cycle through the deck, so an encounter card will come out. In previous videos, I think I dealt with the encounter card right away. I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to wait until the encounter card phase, the encounter card part of the villain's turn. So here, Mockingbird is going to tank the attack. 2 Hawkeye counters dealt with the drones from Assault on NORAD and from Ultron's attack. And we've got an Exhaust Your Identity card and Surge into a card that surges into 2 more, that reveals another card and surges into a card, so 2 more encounter cards. And there's Shadow of the Past, so that's going to bring Whiplash into play, and Imminent Overload. This is turning into a pretty ugly turn. The other 3 cards from the Nemesis set will get shuffled into the deck. And I choose to use a Hawkeye arrow here to deal 2 damage to Whiplash, which deals a 2nd damage to Hawkeye. I don't think you have to, because it's not a forced response, it's a response, and at least in Lord of the Rings LCG, responses were always optional, but I do choose to. And then we get Master Plan, which adds 4 threat to the Imminent Overload. And then an Advanced Ultron Drone, so a pretty ugly turn. I think Hawkeye should have 2 damage on him right now, but no big deal. So we're going to get Nick Fury into play to help deal with that 8 threat on Imminent Overload. We use his Reduced Threat by 2 ability, then use him to scheme, use Arc Reactor to ready Iron Man, or to thwart, use Arc Reactor to ready Iron Man to thwart. And at some point I decide to... Oh right, Hawkeye didn't have any damage on him before because I decided not to ping Ultron. At least I think. I think the damage counter is correct. But anyway, I decide to, instead of thwarting with Nick Fury, I'm going to deal 2 damage to the Whiplash because he can tank the Retaliate attack no problem since he's going to die this round anyway. So I leave 2 threat on Imminent Overload and take care of Whiplash with Nick Fury. Now I draw my hand, and we're going to be readying up, so the Sultan NORAD will get 2 threat this round because of the +1 from Imminent Overload. I'll realize that just in just a moment and correct it. There it is. And then Ultron's attack brings a drone into play. Here there may be a mistake because I think there should actually be 2 more threat on Assault on NORAD since I didn't bring a drone into play. Or I could have brought another drone into play as well. So we get Maria Hill into play on the hero phase. Powered gauntlets. Use Iron Man. So it's possible that Assault on NORAD should have 2 additional threat here. And I would have pinged one of those off with Mark V helmet, so the end result I think would be 1 additional threat on Assault on NORAD as a result of that mistake from last turn. Flip over to Tony Stark and use Futurist, and then we draw our hand. This is one of the only times that I flip over to Tony Stark. So here I'm thinking about whether I want to give extra threat or bring a drone, and I decide on the extra threat. And then Ultron schemes for just 2. And the advanced Ultron drone also schemes for 1. So the encounter card is going to be forcing me to discard an upgrade or kill myself. And then naturally I will decide to discard an upgrade. At this point I realize that my HP should be higher because of the Mark V armor and rocket boots, and so I correct that. And then we're going to check what allies are in my discard pile, since the discard pile did get shuffled. Think with Hawkeye in it. So I can make the call for the Mockingbird, which I will do. First I'm going to use Futurist. Grab Powered Gauntlets. I'm thinking about which resource types to use here, which order. So I'm going to discard the Genius and the Repulsor Blast and grab Mockingbird as my 3rd ally and get that stun, that valuable stun on Ultron. And then get the 2nd Powered Gauntlets into play. And we'll flip over to Iron Man. Again, there should be 1 additional threat on Assault on NORAD at the moment. Likely will get pinged off by the helmet at some point, as typically later in the game I have plenty of threat reduction. But for what it's worth, we'll note that and see if it has any impact. So we can now draw a hand of 6, thanks to the 5 upgrades and the default of 1. So here I'm bringing in a drone as opposed to 2 extra threat. Ultron's stunned, so he's not going to get his attack, but we still deal him a boost card. And then the encounter card is going to be business problems, so we flip over to Tony Stark. and exhaust him and remove business problems from the game. Not really a big deal at all. In fact, flipping over to Tony Stark in this situation is kind of helpful. So here we're going to discard the appropriate resources to get rid of the upgraded drones improvement. Going to use Futurist, and we'll probably grab the Make the Call. Though I don't have anything I can play with it at the moment, though I could do a play where I use Hawkeye to thwart or something, and then bring him back right away with Make the Call, and I don't know if I realize I can do that or not. I think I maybe do realize it in a moment. So I flip over to Iron Man and use the helmet to remove one threat. Gonna get rid of the drone. And there I decided to use Haymaker to deal damage to the advanced Ultron drone, and then I used the powered gauntlets to take out the remaining. So here the remaining drone. So here there would be one additional threat on the quest. I would have used Mockingbird to take care of it. So the end result would be Ultron has one more hit point, which wouldn't really matter in the end because at the end of the game I had more than enough damage. So no real result from forgetting the drone one turn from Assault on NORAD, which is good. The setup's pretty good now. The board state is stable with 3 allies in play. And we don't have rocket boots. Got discarded by a Whiplash card, but otherwise we're in a pretty stable position. Would like to have a Make the Call in hand, but so we get to put Hawkeye in the discard pile after cycling through the deck, which is good. Actually, I shouldn't have cycled Hawkeye through right there, because I should have immediately shuffled the deck and then discarded Hawkeye after the action. And that's going to make things a little harder on me than they needed to be, but that's okay. So the swarm attack deals some damage for the drone attacks, and the drone attacks they already get their normal attacks, so we lose 4 HP there and drop down to 3. And in the hero phase, we're going to go ahead and start getting in these extra support cards. Pepper Potts, Helicarrier, Avengers Mansion, all helpful. Use powered gauntlets to deal with the Ultron drones, and we're in a spot now where we can start doing some damage to the boss. 20 minutes in, we've got set up, we've stabilized the board, and there the Hawkeye kind of misplay or wrong ordering doesn't really hurt because Hawkeye comes up again right away. He might have been supposed to still be in the deck, I'm not really sure. Well, that's alright, because Hawkeye's going to tank an attack here, and then he's going to go to discard, and then we can bring him back right away with Make the Call, at least on our hero turn. So, the first encounter card brings a drone into play. The second brings 2 more drones into play. But we got the tools to deal with them now in this stable board state. And I decide here I'm going to use Hawkeye to thwart, not because I needed him to, but just because I wanted to kill him off so that I can just make the call this turn and bring him back to deal with the Ultron drones. I could have waited for Ultron to kill him as a chump blocker, but I didn't really think I needed to do that. With Iron Man at 12 health and Mockingbird already on the table as a chump blocker and another Make the Call in hand, and along with vision. Yeah, I didn't think I needed to be greedy with my allies, and so I just have Hawkeye die off, and then I bring him back with Make the Call. And we'll deal with the threat here, and then continue to deal some damage to Ultron, a little bit at least. Phase 2 is down to 9 now, so we're just gradually whittling him down. And Hawkeye's tokens get used up here, dealing with the drones from Assault on NORAD and from Ultron's standard attack. And Mockingbird will tank the attack there, and the encounter card is Electromagnetic Backlash. So we got to discard 5 cards, take damage for each lightning bolt. 2 lightning bolts there. No problem. Then the hero turn, we can get Vision out here. Or potentially just make the call, bring back Mockingbird and get a stun. Avengers Mansion first. It's always good to draw first. So we get out Vision. And we're going to use Pepper Pots to generate the 2 resources from Strength. With Make the Call on Helicarrier to bring back Mockingbird and get that stun again on Ultron. Very, very strong. Mockingbird is a very important card to include when playing with core set cards. I would include her, auto-include in every deck. So we're going to discard Rocket Boots to go airborne here. I'm thinking about pushing Ultron into phase 3 right here. Now I debate whether I want to do that or not. Should have dealt an extra damage to Ultron there, I think. But the point was to push him down to 1 HP or 2 HP. I think I thought Vision only attacked for 1 there, so I could have done more if I wanted to. I would have simply not exhausted Iron Man there, because the point was to put him at 1 HP and be in position to move over into phase 2 next round. So Ultron removes his stun. Get the upgraded drones again, and an acceleration token is added to the quest because of the encounter deck cycling through. And we can push through into phase 3 here, which brings Ultron's Imperative into play. That's going to bring 2 drones into play. Which apparently I forgot about. Yeah, I apparently forgot about the 2 drones, which would have simply delayed the game a little bit longer. I had the ability to deal with one of them with Hawkeye, and it would have simply not dealt some damage to Ultron here. And that's not going to matter, though. I don't know why I forgot those drones, but I did have the ability to deal with them because I moved Ultron down to 1 HP before moving to phase 3, so I had virtually all of my actions available. So instead of dealing 4 damage to Ultron, I would have dealt with the drones. So he'd probably be at 20 HP now instead of 16. So we'll just make a note of that for later. Here we use Hawkeye to deal with the drone from Assault on NORAD, but we do get one from Ultron's normal attack, and he's gonna use a chump blocker, Hawkeye, and we'll just bring him back into play next round with Make the Call. And I got 2 encounter cards thanks to cycling through my deck again, so 1 damage to each friendly character is going to kill Vision, unfortunately. And then an upgrade for Ultron. On the hero turn, so there's been 2 mistakes so far. Earlier I did 8 damage with a supersonic punch when I should have only done 4 because I didn't realize that I hadn't gone airborne. So supersonic punch only deals 4 when you're not airborne. So Ultron should really be at 22 health here and not 16. But given the board state, this isn't really going to matter. It's possible it might delay the game by 1 extra turn in the end, but I'm not even certain that's the case since I have a lot of damage available to me now. But let's pretend, for the sake of, I don't know, consistency, that Ultron's at 22 at the moment. So we just ping him down a bit. Ultron's upgrade is scheming related, so I don't really care, as I don't intend to switch to Alter Ego again. So here we draw Supersonic Punch, Repulsor Blast, Haymaker, Nick Fury. So with Avengers Mansion, Helicarrier, Pepper Potts, we've got the ability to put almost any amount of damage on Ultron. The attack during his turn gets tanked by Mockingbird. Counter card does nothing as there's no drones in play. And now we gotta go find a side scheme, which I probably just ignore. But I do have the ability to deal with fairly easily. So this turn, Ultron should have 18 HP and not 12. Draw a card just to get more resources to play stuff, so we're going to use... A more efficient use of resources would be to use Genius to pay for Supersonic Punch and use Pepper to grab the resources from the Genius. But I think I got a little bit lazy about that here because it just wasn't needed to be super efficient. Here is where I realized there should be more HP on him because of the earlier Supersonic Punch. And there should actually be 2 more than that due to forgetting to bring drones in for Ultron's Imperative. So go ahead and use Genius. I decided to spend the Genius to go airborne. And then I use Pepper to replicate its resources and Supersonic Punch for 8. And then I have an additional 2/4 from the Gauntlets, 2 from War Machine. Then I have an additional 1 from Hawkeye available, 2 from Iron Man and Arc Reactor, 3 from Haymaker, and then whatever amount from Repulsor Blast. So we have more than enough damage to compensate for marking the damage incorrectly earlier. So I do think leadership is the way to go for this quest if you're playing solo. It's a very, very difficult quest. I had to try many attempts and many different deck configurations. And the reason leadership is so good is because of the use, you get multiple uses of Hawkeye and Mockingbird. So small mistakes were made along the way, but none very impactful, except for potentially the question of whether you reshuffle your deck immediately upon depleting it, or whether you wait until you need to draw a new card from it. And I have no idea what is the correct thing to do. I know what I did is I used the last card in my deck for an Ultron drone, and then I reshuffled my deck back in the next time I needed a card, which resulted in Hawkeye being discarded before my deck was reshuffled, which at the time I was sad about, but then later was happy about when I redrew Hawkeye quickly. If I had not redrawn Hawkeye quickly and I had redrawn Make the Call instead, then I would have been quite sad that Hawkeye was in the discard pile. So at the time I thought I was doing the thing that was most difficult for me, and I think on average it is. But I don't know what the correct thing is to do according to the rules, and I'm not sure if anybody would have a ruling on that, but it's possible. It's very possible. Anyway, very difficult quest. Ultron on Expert. So, thank you for watching.